Hello and welcome to this video on setting up the spell checker. So there are two parts to setting up the spell checker. The first is setting the proofing language and the second is selecting the proofing options. So to select the proofing language, the first thing you need to do is select the whole document, and you do this by pressing Ctrl-A so that you have selected all of the document. Now the proofing language you set will be applied to all of the document. The problem that could occur here and that you will solve by doing this is that there could be more than one language set in the document. So you go into Review, Language, Set Proofing Language, and the language should be set so English United Kingdom is the preferred option, and this should be selected in blue. And down below you should have unticked Do Not Spelling or Grammar, and unticked Detect Language automatically. If either of those are ticked, or if they're blue or black, then tick them until they're both clear. Up here with the language, if you see that no language is highlighted in blue, then you need to select English United Kingdom. The reason I use English United Kingdom is that English Ireland, there should be no difference between them, but just in case there is, select English United Kingdom. Only use English US if the document is dedicated only to people in the US, readers in the US. So once you've done this, so you've got English United Kingdom in blue, both of these are unselected, click OK, and now your language is set. So the next part is to select the proofing options. So to select the proofing options, go File, scroll down to the bottom to Options. In some versions of Word, this may be Word Options, and then come to Proofing. So you will then get this pop up, and the first thing you need to do is go into Autocorrect Options. And in Autocorrect Options, there are a number of selections here that you can change to suit your own needs. So the first one here that I would draw your attention to is correct to initial capitals. So this will automatically change if you keep your finger on the shift key too long and create two capitals where you only wanted one, it will automatically change it back to just one capital. However, if you have product names or brands that have two initial capitals, then if this is selected, it will change it back to just one capital. So if that's the case and you don't want that to happen, you can untick it. If you don't have such a situation, then you tick that option or leave it ticked, as the case may be. You can look through the other options there and make sure that they're correct. Down below then we have a number of options that the spell checker automatically changes for you. So if you're happy with these, then you can change them. You can leave them as they are, but if you're not happy, then you need to make sure. So for instance, if you have a product called Ameria, it'll automatically change it to America. So in that case, you're going to have to update that. So you can do that by either removing this one, so you can either delete that, or you can change that Ameria, you can change the America up here, so that replace it with the same thing. So scroll down through and make sure there may be some product names that it's changing for you, there may be some process names, etc. So scroll down through, make sure you're happy with those, and you can add in any extra ones that you need. And then you go OK. So that's those autocorrect options in place for you. Now, the next thing we need to look at is ignore words of uppercase. So this is normally ticked, and the problem with this is that if you type anything in uppercase, the spell checker won't check them. So for instance, headings are acronyms. Now if you untick it, you've now converted it into an automatic acronym finder, so it will flag up each of the acronyms as it comes to them if it's unticked, and then you can check if you've defined these either in a table or within the text itself. And if you have, you can just ignore all, and if not, you can add it to the table. Further down then there are, so you can check the rest of these settings to make sure you're happy with them. And further down at the bottom, there are exceptions for this document. So your document name will automatically appear here, and you should check that both of these, hide spelling and hide grammar errors, are unticked for your document. Otherwise, it will hide those errors in your document. And finally, the last thing I want to show you on this is show you the use of readability statistics. So this is normally unticked, but I always tick it because it gives you a very useful pop-up each time you use the spell checker. So I'm just going to tick that and go OK. So now you need to save your document to save those settings, and you're now ready to spell check. So we'll go ahead and spell check this document. So we'll just go in and spell check it, and there were no spelling errors in this document. So this readability statistics pop-up has automatically appeared. So it gives you a number of useful pieces of information. So one of them is the number of words per sentence. So here I'm at 13.6, and that's pretty good. If you are somebody whose sentences are normally too long, then this is something you will keep an eye on. It'll come up automatically for at the end and to remind you to check this. So I usually use a rule of thumb of 16. So if the average is above 16, and remember this is just an average value, so if it's above 16, I would generally look to see are there any sentences in there that are too long. So you certainly don't want an average here up around 25 to 30. If it's down around, if it's below 16 or something like that, it's probably okay. And then there are two very useful reading indices here that you can just keep an eye on. Once again, they're just indicative. The flight reading index, which is a percentage. So 100%, a 5-year-old child would be able to understand it. So we don't need anything like that. But we certainly don't want it to be down to be around 30 or 40%. Because in that case you would need a PhD to read it, or maybe it's just not well written. So it's something you can use to keep an eye on where you are and monitor your improvement as you go. So that number should be getting higher. Things that will make it lower are things like technical terms, and there's nothing you can do about those. Things like your sentences being too long or overuse of the passive voice may cause it to be lower, but it's just something that you can use just to keep an eye on how you're doing and just check on your writing. The other one is the same thing, except it's the Fleisch Kincaid grade level, and it's based on the American school grade. So a 12th grade, or sorry, an 8th grade is 12 years old. So if you had a reading of 8 here, a US 12-year-old would be able to read it. So we don't need that. However, if it's up around 16, once again, that's too high. So you can just keep an eye on both of those. They're the same thing, just expressed in different ways. And then finally, we have the number of passive sentences. So in this case, this is an instruction. So the passive voice is not desirable for instructions. So here we have 0, so that's pretty good. So if you're doing SOPs, work instructions, then you can just keep an eye on your percentage of the passive voice and make sure that it's low enough. And if it creeps up, then you can just check the document before you send it out. So once you go OK on that, then your spell checking has been completed and you're ready to send off your document. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you find it useful.